This is Reality Dispatch, written by Jim Mintz.
He was on day release, a convicted terrorist for hire. His specialty was explosives, and he was serving 18 consecutive life sentences for treason, constructing the bombs used to kill citizens of his own allegiance. He had spent the last 8 years in solitary on a remote island in a secret prison. He had not seen the other side of the walls in thousands of days. Now, here he was, atop the world's tallest tower in Dubai, having rigged 17 buildings in powdered explosives of various colors and arrangements. He had presented them in a formation he knew to be spectacular, although no one would be able to tell until the show was over. It was New Year's Eve, and the contract for the fireworks display had pulled out due to international outrage over labor hire practices that bordered on slavery. Prisoner 2248 was the perfect candidate for a replacement. If he managed to pull it off, he could expect a good behavior perk. Release was always out of the question, and given his living circumstances, he would accept anything that presented as a perk. Hell, even orchestrating the New Year's fireworks was a perk. If he managed to do a good job, perhaps this could be a regular gig. No doubt, he would be far cheaper than the alternative. Notwithstanding the threat to the public, his arrest sheet had showcased. Time check, 2248, asked the armed guard with the retracted Glock at his side and the automatic AR-19 pointed at his head. 11:33, the guard replied. 2248 rubbed the wires where the ignition spark would light. He had informed them all that the only way his fireworks would be able to be ignited was by a lit fuse. He explained to them that he was old school. He operated on a battlefield where the options of remote assassinations were out of the question. For every death that 2248 presided over, he had been the one to light the fuse, and he was always within the vicinity to perform the execution to maintain a safe distance for his escape. He rubbed the wires continuously. He was wary of the moisture in the air that placed a soft dampening of wetness along the lines that needed to be bone dry. If this didn't work, he'd be back in solitary for eternity, without the possibility of ever seeing the light of day. This was his only opportunity for an improvement in his living standards. "I need to run the line with my palm," he said to the guard. The guard responded by pointing the barrel of the weapon closer to his temple. "I mean it," he pleaded. "The moisture in the air is dampening the lines that are running to the explosives. If they get too wet, they won't light. If they don't light, then they won't erupt, and there will be no fireworks display at midnight." The guard checked his watch again. "It's 27 minutes to midnight. That's enough time. What about the lines on the other towers? How are you going to check those lines and be back in time to light the fuse? Just trust me." The guard suspected a double cross and radioed his colleagues accordingly. "Glover," he said into his earpiece. "Go ahead," Glover replied. 2248 is requesting a line check. He says the moisture in the air will cause the line to be too wet to light the fuse. The guard explained. "So what does he want?" Glover asked. "He wants to run his palm over the lines to wipe off any moisture." Glover was on the concourse, below the sea tower. It was a kilometer above the desert floor, and just under 500 meters below. 2248, and the guards that kept him under their authority before he was to light the fuse at 3 minutes to midnight. "Absolutely not. I have the Crown Prince down here, watching the pre-firework activities. I cannot have a felon walking around in prison orange inspecting the lines before midnight. He will think we're trying to kill him or something," Glover said in a panic. "Roger," the guard replied. He held up the barrel of his weapon once more toward the face of 2248. "Your request has been denied. So what happens if they don't go off?" 2248 asked the guard. "That will be a problem for you," the guard said. "This won't be my last New Year. I'll survive." He checked his watch once more. 20 minutes to midnight. "If my accounts are correct, you've instructed that you will need to light the fuse at 3 minutes to 0 hours. I will hand you a lighter 1 minute before then. We are still on schedule. You just have to hope for the best," he said, his nozzle not moving, always ready to engage. 2248 turned his gaze away from the weapon and towards the sea of lights below him. At 1,500 meters above sea level, the scene looked like a reverse angle of the stars above. He looked at the fuse line and thought briefly about rerouting the lining to progress the fuse upwards. This would cause the fireworks on the tower above to not go off in stages, but instead erupt in one large fireball at the same instance. None of the other buildings would go off. All eyes would be centrally focused on the tower. The explosion could have the potential to be enormous. It would end the existence of 2248, the guard with his weapon fixed on the back of his head, plus the 3 other guards that were peppered throughout the top floor, looking out where the firework fixtures were installed. He would need to be fast if he was to pull it off. Such a reroute would require patience, precision, and an explanation as to what he was doing to the cluey guard who was ever on watch. He thought it through ever briefly before his hands took over, and he began the last-minute reroute. He pulled out the fuse wires and stripped the plastic sheeting. He then merged these sheets and wrapped them around like chicken wire before he was finally asked by the guard what he was up to. "I cannot trust the moisture not to fuck the whole thing up. I'm making sure the plastic sheeting is not going to stop the fuse from spreading," he said. He hoped it worked. "Do it fast, it's almost time," the guard replied, confirming 2248's hopes that it had indeed worked. As he wrapped the last of the rerouted wiring and squeezed them together with his thumbs, the guard handed him the lighter. "Ignite it and hand it straight back," he instructed. "What time is it?" 2248 asked. 3 minutes to midnight. With the rerouted lines in place, the fuse was lit, and the prisoner and the guards watched as the line of fire took off down the coated line below them, before quickly performing a U-turn and traveling back up at speed. "What's happening?" the guard asked, shoving 2248 out of the way and watching as the fuse bolted upwards past the men towards the firework fixtures a meter above. He could see they were all primed to explode at once. "Happy New Year," 2248 announced as a white flame engulfed them all before they were met by eternal silence.
For more stories of fact-based fiction, head to jimmins.substack.com.